All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for being here today, and welcome to Is It Possible, Episode 3, On Premise, April 23. Here it is. I'm your host today. My name is Ryan Spilken. I work as the Senior Communications and Employee Engagement Manager at Adaptivist, and have been around this Atlassian ecosystem doing things here and there for quite a while. So I'm looking forward to joining these fine panelists for today's presentation and learning about what's possible and what maybe isn't possible with ScriptRunner. But joining me today are Senior Product Manager Briana Newsome, Software Engineer Matthew Clark, Senior Content Marketing Manager Jess Thompson, and the Code Father, creator of ScriptRunner, and Principal Engineer Jamie Echlin. Today's presentation was counting on having a few other folks handy, but we've had a run of bad luck. So we're really thinking about our friends and colleagues, Reese Lander, Verity Blake, and Ken McLean, who couldn't be with us today. Reese particularly just called off to go see the Super Mario movie. You know, these things happen. So anyway, he didn't. That's not what happened at all. I'm just teasing Reese because that's kind of what we do. All right, folks. So before we get started with all the great Is It Possible content, we just didn't do some quick housekeeping. First of all, everybody is on mute, but we've turned on the chat function in Zoom. So please add a message and send it to everyone. The panelists won't see messages. We can't see them. So please send your messages to everyone. We will try to address as many questions as we can. So in the time that we have, we will cover all the questions that we can. And if something comes up towards the end of the session and you think, oh, I could have asked that, well, we've got you covered. There'll be a form that will drop into the Google chat where you can submit questions for future Is It Possible episodes. Right. So that being said, let's do this. First, Briana, you're going to show us some new canned scripts in Confluence. So let's hear about it.
Thanks, Ryan. We've got a few new tricks up our sleeve. Actually, we have a slide if you would like to show that before I jump into the demo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just providing a quick overview of what we're going to look at. Yeah, so we've got 5 new built-in automations. So these are things that you can run as a manual script, but we wanted to give our customers a little more flexibility. So we've got 3 new jobs and 2 new listeners. And if you slip one more slide over, just a quick overview. So each of these, we've got some use cases here. This is really going to help you keep up with your cleanup maintenance tasks without having to spend a whole lot of time or effort. So bulk delete attachments, manage labels, purge trash, update page restrictions, and then add remove watchers. Basically, a job is something that you schedule to run on a particular time frame, and a listener is going to run based on events in Confluence. I have 2 that I'm going to demonstrate for you here today. So now I'm going to share my screen, and let me get this pulled up here. All right. So when you come into ScriptRunner here, you'll notice that you always have these little icons showing you what's new. I'm going to start by showing off the Manage Labels job. So if we go to our Jobs tab here, these are built-in jobs. So if you click on Create Jobs, it's going to provide a list. You'll see we have a number of these. Basically, they're kind of pre-built configurations, but you can update them to your needs. So we're going to select Manage Labels. The one that I am going to show for you here today, we're going to set up a job that's going to manage the labels for our benefits page. We have space for HR documentation. Underneath that, we have a subpage for benefits. We want to make sure that anytime new content is added there, that the labels are applied appropriately. So we'll say manage labels for benefits pages. You have to run this as a user with the correct permissions. So I'm going to run this as a Confluence admin. The next step here is this interval or cron expression. So this is basically asking you, when do you want this to run? You can click here for more help and support on defining these expressions, but basically it's just a string of digits where you're specifying the seconds, minutes, hours, day of the month, month, year, when you want it to run. So I'm going to set this up, and the 0017 means I want this to run at 5 p.m. on Fridays. And we've got more examples here for you. If you're looking for something specific, you can always select one of these to get more guidance. The next item, what content type? So what should these labels be applied to? They can be applied to pages, to blogs, attachment. I'm going to say pages. And then the final step here really is, where do I want this to run? So for my purposes, I want this to run in a specific page within a space. So we're going to say my HR space. And then I get this page tree component here. I can click the folder to drill down. And I want this to apply to everything in my benefits section. So all of those subpages I would like this to run for. So I'm going to select the parent item. Now I can run this now, or I can just save this and it'll run on Friday, every Friday at 5 p.m. For now, let's add this. Oh, sorry, I want to add the label. Forgot my final step. I want my label to say benefits. So I'm going to add this, and we can see this has been created, has not yet run. If I check my space real quick, we can see, go to my HR space. I'll just check some of the pages under benefits. There's no labels applied. So we're going to hop back to our job, making sure that I have the right credentials here. And then we will go ahead and run that job. So I'm going to execute this manually, go ahead and run it. And when I do, we'll see that label has now been applied. So when I go back to my HR space and I look at that page, we can see those labels have now been applied. Yeah, so benefits label is applied. And that's going to run every week. I set it and forget it, manage all of my labels for me without having to go in and keep up with that manually. So hopefully that one is useful to everyone out there. The next one that I wanted to show is our update page restrictions listener. This one's we've already gotten some good feedback. Seems like people have some good use cases for this one. This one is a listener. So rather than running on a pre-configured time frame, it's going to pay attention for events in the system. So this one, I'm going to create a listener to manage the page restrictions. So we have a space where we're tracking our security documentation content, and there's some things that we really, need to make sure we're careful about who has access. So I'm going to call this my security restrictions listener. I have a user group that I've set up for security access. I want to make sure that when new pages are created, only those users have access. So I'm going to select my page create event. So step one, what event are we listening for? Step two is the conditions. So this is where I can get really specific. Under what conditions should this apply? In my case, I'm going to say anything in my security space. So I've got some code here that's going to say, if this is within the security space, I'm going to run this script. You can get as complex as you need to here. There's a lot more opportunity to really get very complex conditions. But for me, we're going to start with the security space. The next step here really is to determine what those restrictions are and who they apply to. So for this, I'm going to say only users and groups chosen in the script can view and edit. So this is going to restrict this to the group I select, and I'm going to select my security group. So I'll go ahead and add that now. And we can see I've created my listener. It has not yet run because that event has not been triggered. So we can look at the security space now. I'm logged in as an admin. I can see everything here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new page. And we're going to call this my secret security page. And we're going to save that. All right, and we can see right off the bat, restrictions have been applied as this new page was created, limited to the security group. And just to test to make sure things are operating as they should, I'm going to use another really good feature here. I'm going to actually use my switch to a different user to confirm. So I'm going to switch to my personal account just to make sure that those restrictions are applied. So my personal account does not have access to that security group. So I'm now impersonating my personal account. If I go to my security page, I do not see that secret security page that I just created. So that's it at a high level. We've got a handful more of these. Hopefully those are useful. And if anyone has questions on those or is looking for something specific, let us know.
I'm impressed. Briana, is that first the label feature? Is that something that we're going to roll out to space admins someday? Because as a space admin, wow, can I use that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got it. We're looking into all of these. We really understand that it's super helpful for site admins to have this, but space admin, especially for large instances, that delegation is crucial. So yes, we're going to be looking into that as well.
Nice. Thank you very much. All right. Next up on Is It Possible? Is there a way to run a script when Jira is started? I don't know. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, so we will run all scripts that we find in a particular package or directory. So I just demonstrate. So if you go to script editor, create a file, the important thing is if you want it to run at startup, it needs to be in this directory called startup. Directory package is the same thing. I mean, there's kind of analogous in Java. It doesn't matter what the file is called, whatever. And then we will, I'll just do a script and then save. I'm not going to restart Jira because that will take a couple of minutes. But so any script that is in the startup directory, and it needs to also be in the startup package, it's the same thing, will run at startup. There was a bit more to his question, and he was talking about, I think the background to the question was he duplicated production to UAT, and he didn't want to fetch email or send email. So he wanted to write a script to remove mail servers and all of this business. But there are some, I had a look at our non-production instance, and you need to set these system properties in the startup. So just Google for them on Atlassian's website. So in terms of mail, you want to disable sending, disable fetching. Just set these three. And then you don't need to worry about it. You can have all the mails and configured and so on, but Jira won't actually do anything. And the other thing you were saying is you have a bunch of webhooks that will spam Slack. And yeah, you need to do something about those. So you can write a script. You were talking about using the base URL to work out if it's a production instance or not. So yeah. To answer the question, stick your scripts in the startup directory and they will run at startup.
Nice, Jamie. Thank you very much. That question came from Tobias. I forgot to mention him right when we ran that off. But Tobias, thank you very much for the question. Moving on, a question from Shelon. Is it possible to take a value from a custom text field and add it to a multi-select list? Matthew Clark, I think you're going to take a look at this one, right?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Well, I pretend I haven't practiced. All right, okay, let me share my screen.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, can you see Jira? Good. Okay, so I have a situation set up so that I can demo what I think the use case was. So the way I understood the question, the user has a service desk where they have like a request type for processing new customers, and then a request type for handling services that customer might request. So and they want to record certain things when they get a new customer. So when they have a new customer come in, they want to record customer name, company name, and I don't know, something like VAT ID. So the way their flow works is they have the company added here, and then when the customer comes back and to ask for a service, they can request it here, and then they want to choose the company from here. So currently the user said that they're having to do this manually. They're having to add their company in here, create the issue, and then an admin would have to go in and add the custom field value as a custom field value to an option on the drop down list. So they asked if we can automate that. So the answer is yes, we can automate that. You can do it in a variety of different ways, but so you could do it with a listener. In this case, I'm using a workflow function because it's pretty simple to do it that way. So if you look at this setup, you've got new customers and then you've got the service request. So this is a task type and this is a service request type. If you look at the workflows, you can see task is part of this workflow and then service request is part of this workflow. So when an issue is created, it'll go through this workflow. So what we want to do is do something when someone creates a new client or new customer issue in this workflow. So we can just edit this workflow. And then, so we want to do something on create and we want to add a post function. So I've cheated a little bit and done it already because I wanted to make sure it worked before I did the demo. But essentially, you can just add the post function. You can come down here and choose add a custom script post function. And then you'll get this added. It'll be at the top initially. You can push it down to the bottom. It does work at the top, but it's logically, it makes more sense to me to do something after it's been created. So if we edit that to see what it actually looks like. So you just put in your script in here. I've made this script available on the library so that anyone can use it. And I'll just break it down now. So when a task type or when the issue is created, the new client request is created, you'll come in here and you'll get the company name field. If there is no company name value, sorry, you'll get the value, sorry, not the field. If there is no value, then you won't do anything. And then if there is a value, you carry on. You get the field that you want to add the option to, which is the company field. You need to get its config, and then because you need the config to get its options. It's pretty easy to get the config. You just need to use the field that you got and then call the relevant config. My field is a global field, so I can just use the global context, but you can specify a specific context if you create a new issue context implementation constructor, which we can help if you wanted to do that. So I'll get the options for the field. This is getting the current options available on that company field. And what I want to do is make sure that if there's already a company for that field, I don't want to duplicate it, so I don't do anything if there's already a value. And then this is the most important part is the shortest part, which is good. So you just get the options that you got, and then you add a new option, and then you add the string value for that option as the second argument. You'll be probably thinking, why is there a null there? So this add option method has the ability to add options for cascade fields as well. And normally, if you look at the pop-up here, that you would specify a parent option here if you were adding a new option underneath a parent option on a cascade field. In this case, we're not. We're just doing it to a select field. So I'm using a select list. It works the same way with multi-select. Adding options doesn't change for either of those. So if I click update and then publish that, if I then go back to that. So when if I make sure to see that I'm not lying. So this is all that's here at the moment. I need to think of another name for a company. I'm not very creative. Hold on. Oh no, let's use the old AWS. I don't know that. So this company, I don't know. We don't want to duplicate them. So AWS 2. All right. So then we do create. And then instead, you don't have to do anything else. You just have to go back here, and then your option is already there. There's no manual work involved at all. And then you can just create the issue. So it's very easy, and you can do that with a listener if you wanted to on the issue create event. If you wanted to filter you might be asking in here. The workflows had you've got task and subtask. So you could just detect if the issue is a task, if you wanted to make sure you only trigger for that. And it's just as simple as adding an extra condition, issue, get issue type, and then make sure it's a task. But yeah, anyway, so that's one way of doing it. And there's another way, which is also
Right,
really...
Clarky, before you go on to the other way, I think a few of us are wondering how you keep that list sorted, because when you created the issue, the customer name was not sorted. The AWS 2 was at the bottom, and I expected it to be near the top.
oh yeah, I haven't actually sorted it yet. You can change the sequence of the options, although I don't know how to do that live, so I might not do that right now.
I was waiting, Jamie, but that's fine. Go for it. Nice.
I'm not going to do that now because that's
okay.
But you can get the current sequence and then add it as the first sequence. I think you'd have to just add the sequence in yourself. I can't remember the method off the top of my head, but maybe I can make another library script for that.
I think you could just sort them alphabetically. I heard you say you'll take that as an action and update your library scripts.
Yeah, can do.
This one.
I'm not going to risk doing that live.
No, don't do it live, but a few people are noticing this obvious failure.
Yeah, so the original, well, I mean, okay, behind the scenes, I originally did have a sequence changing logic, but someone in this call suggested I used a different method, which was simpler, which is the add option method, which it is simpler. But unfortunately, I lost all of my sequencing logic, and I'm not going to try and create that on the fly. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to my other idea. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, which may have also been a genius idea by the creator. So you have in ScriptRunner we have a script fields, and you can have an issue picker. So you've broken my flow, Jamie. Hold on. Right. So when you create a new customer, this is essentially an issue. So the issue represents a customer. So you can use that issue as a selection to represent the customer if you create an issue picker where you can select those issues. So what I've done is made a script field called company picker. And in here, you can just filter it to only select issues from the service desk project we're dealing with and where the company name is not empty. So the fields to search from is issue key. It works without issue key, but I've got issue key and company name, so you can search based on those when you're looking for the items in the list. And you don't actually need all of this code logic, but I've added it to format it a little bit better. I can make this available afterwards as well, but it does work without it. But I want to demo what it looks like. So the field will look like this. So I'm specifically tailoring the issue picker to use the company name field. Sorry, yeah, the company name field as what to show as a selection value. So it looks like you're choosing from a select list, but you're actually choosing issues. And I've also got some logic up here to make it so that it shows a link to the issue. So instead of showing an issue key, you can click through and go directly to the issue. And that's just this logic up here. So what this does is customize the option display, which is this stuff. And I'm just saying, just show me the company name value. And then this bit here is what actually handles the display down here. And then, so I'll show it in action. If I can, right, click update. And then, so at the moment on here, I have added, hold on, just want to show you adding the fields because there's a difference to adding script fields. Okay, so when you add a script field to a service desk request form, it looks like this, and then you have to click show. It doesn't automatically get put into the visible fields list. It's just a limitation of how we can display those fields on the service desk portal side. Yeah, so if I go to the request, I mean, I won't create another issue because I'll get laughed at by Jamie again. So if we go into another service, so this one has got my issue picker field on it, and it has all of my companies already there. And I can just, if I just put some random text in, when I create that, you've got your company and you've got a direct link to go to that, the definition of that customer or the company. So this could, you could essentially treat it like an sort of a cheap asset sort of. So you don't have to have a whole asset management system. You can just use an issue picker to treat the issue as an asset, and you can have all your customers' details on there. So yeah,
Clever.
That's my demo.
Very nice, Clark. It's really nice. Good work there. And despite us rattling your cage a little bit, that was a brilliant demo. Thank you, sir. All right, next up is some Jamie.
I just want to throw some more shade on Clarky.
Oh.
No, I mean he's using it as a kind of cheap sort of CRM system, but you know, a lot of customers probably do have a CRM system. If you don't, fine, then sure, use Jira. But if you do have a CRM system, then we have those similar picker fields, like it could be the database picker or the REST picker, custom picker, that would allow you to still pick a customer whilst keeping all your customers in whatever you use for a CRM system, HubSpot or whatnot. Okay, but yeah, well, good demo, Clarky, thanks. Groovy 4. So I don't have that much to say about Groovy 4. Then the release, I believe it's today, we will upgrade Groovy from 3 to 4. Now, the reason behind this is pretty much only because it supports Java 17, and the latest Jira and Confluence support Java 17. I've not heard of any customers wanting to use it. We have been compatible with the latest versions, except if you're using Java 17. But this release, thank you. Yeah, this release coming will support JDK 17 on the Atlassian versions that support that. But like I say, we haven't heard of anyone wanting to do this. Now, there are, but you know, why not? There are some new language features that we haven't used heavily yet, because we've only upgraded a couple of, you know, within the last release cycle. Have a look in our release notes. We link to the sort of interesting new language features. Yeah. Okay, that's that. So next slide. HAPi. So this was Reese's section. I just had a quick look through the release notes. Okay, hold on. Bear with me. Sharing screen.
Is this the point at which we heckle Jamie back?
Nah. Maybe a little.
Okay, so one of the things that we've if you go to the documentation, there's release notes, and we keep a change log for HAPi, so specifically to call out any breaking changes. We have had one very minorly breaking change, but we also call out the new things that we're adding, and I do a very quick demo of those. So assets, I should just write this actually. Assets, I have created an insight object schema, or it's now called assets rather than insights. I've created an object schema, and I've got a few. Well, this was my practice, but I'll show you how to create a asset using code. It's very easy now. So assets.create, give the name of the schema, which is IT assets, the object type, and I'm going to create a host type. And then we need to add a few attributes. So you think of attributes similar to fields on issues, or there's no system fields and custom fields with assets, they're just attributes. So we're going to add some attributes. If you look at the completions, it tells you the ones that are required and the ones that are optional, and the types. So the name is required. Like Clarky, I can't think of any interesting names. And then the other, we could fill out some other attributes like the host name, food.acme.com. Now, if I run this, you see we've created a new asset. So what's actually new is we've made it a bit easier to get these attribute values. So if I assign this to a variable, now we can say, before you had to do get attribute values and it was always a list and it was quite complicated. So now you just call something like get string, get floats, get the whatever, get date, get reference. References if it's a link to another attribute, another asset type. So in this case, to get the host name, we could just say get the host, and I did that wrong. I did that wrong when I practiced as well. So there's the name and the host name. I used an attribute that wasn't associated with this object type. Okay, that's assets. We've done some other, you can update projects now. So I get a project, I've got a project called my project, and you can update it, set the name, the key, you can set the type as well, which I don't think we could do before. So I can convert a business project to a service desk project. Clark has done some good work with filters. So you can now grab any filter, so a saved filter by name or ID. And then from there, you can use it in our search API. So if I do get filter by name, it shows the completions are my filters. So I've got one called my open issues. If I run that, it's just an instance of a search request. But the interesting thing, I guess, is let's assign it to a variable. Then I can do issues.search, and one of the overloads takes a search request now. So I can search on this filter. So we'll use the JQL that's associated with this filter.
Jamie, can you use that to feed the results of the search into an action?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
Wow.
I've got each issue here, so I could, then I could do issue.transition, whatever.
Wow.
I probably want to filter so I find all issues in the same state to make sure that they have the same transition. But I could update everything, set the summary, whatever.
But whatever you want to do with a set of issues from a consistent filter, it's now quickly at your hands through the HAPi.
Yeah, I mean, issue search was there from the beginning, but it took it took several things, but mainly it took a JQL string. But now it also accept a filter. So you might have a saved filter that you want to use, just so that you don't have to hard code the JQL. I'll just run this, and then we've got our, the issue. I'm just logging out the issue key, but yeah, you can do anything with each issue. So that's filters. We've done a bunch more stuff with permissions. So you can check user permissions easier. Like on any user, doesn't matter how you get the user. We have extension methods, so we can we've tacked on these extra methods to the user object, the application user. So you've got like has permission, and then you can check the permission for a specific project or an issue. So this says, does the current user have permission to browse the project JRA? Answer is yes. Yeah, and then finally, I don't know, people commonly use it, but in Service Desk you have approvals workflows. So we have added the ability to approve via code, made it very easy without having to use a Service Desk API, which is quite painful and complex. You can also get the list of approvals and determine whether the current user has permission to approve this issue in its current state. So if you work with Service Desk approvals workflows, then take a look at that.
Very nice. Jamie Echlin, one could say that might make our users happy. All right.
Out of all the puns that we could use, that's really quite a bad
Yeah,
one.
I know. It just comes with the extra difficult groan, you know? So let's move on by having Jess tell us about Las Vegas. Hey.
Well, see, my segue was going to be, do you know what makes Jamie and Reese happier than going to play on the slots? And it's talking to customers about HAPi. So yeah, we're at Team 23. So anyone who is stateside or traveling over, yeah, just come and see us. We can't wait to meet as many of you as possible. We will be on the Adaptivist Group's main stand, so we're there if you want to come and talk ScriptRunner, or we're also going to have a separate space where we're hosting some talks, and we have Genius Bars. So Reese will be there, Jamie will be there, Bobby Bailey will be there. I think JP Camo is going to be hanging around too, so come and say hi. We've got demos, we've got talks, we are ready to talk ScriptRunner, and we hope that you are too. If you flip to the next slide for me, please, Ryan. Yeah, just a quick overview here of some of the talks that we have happening. So we've got talks around migration to cloud. So if you're still on server and considering what your next move is going to be and what you might need to be thinking about from a ScriptRunner point of view, we've got some tools and some tips there. We have talks running on both days focused on HAPi. So if you want to see the latest, the greatest, and see what Reese and Jamie and the team have been up to, you can go and take a look at those. And we've also got in the main Atlassian Marketplace Theatre a talk around aligning Jira Cloud with your business rules. So if you're a company that's running both cloud and on-prem solutions, that one might be worth checking out too, centered all around behaviors and what's possible with them currently. If you want to see the full schedule, pop to that link, which I believe Lisa has dropped in the chat too.
Cool. Next, we've got an is it possible question. From Yasi. Is there a way to create such a workflow step that remembers where it came from and can go back to that same state? What do you think?
Is it me again?
Why not, Jamie?
Sorry, it's me. Blame Reese for.
We blame Reese for a lot of things, so that's totally fine. That's standard-ish operating procedure around here, Jamie.
This is a surprisingly difficult question. And I didn't have that much time. That's my excuse. So I think a prerequisite for like a generic back workflow state action is one of these workflows that these simplified workflows where you can go anywhere to anywhere. One way of doing it, probably the most reliable but manual way of doing it, is for each state here. Create an action to each other state and you call it each one back. Now, when you're looking at the issue, then you would see 3 or 4 or 5 transitions all called back that go to different states. But the secret is to use a condition on each one that's mutually exclusive that will read the change history, look at the status, such that you only, like if you've come from in progress and the most recent status is in progress, only that condition will be true, so that the back will be shown and it will take you back to there, and the other ones won't be shown. There's another way of doing it, which is what I'm going to show you, because I couldn't be bothered to set up all these actions that I would have had to have done here. Like I say, it's quite manual. There may be, I didn't really even Google for this, so there may be a better way. But the way that I chose to do it is with a web item. So with web items, you specify where they should go, and you use the fragment finder to work that out. I'm not actually, don't have time to demonstrate that, but just looking at let's create an issue. Blah, 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 blah. And then, right. What I wanted to do is have this action called back somewhere up at the top in the operations. Now I've got a condition on it such that it's used as a change history manager to get the statuses, and if there are none, then the action won't be shown, because when you create the issue, you can't go back. There's nowhere to go back to, right? So I don't want to show this back button initially, which is what this condition is for. And then if this is true, we're going to navigate to a link, and the link is this, which is a REST endpoint. but the issue key will be passed to the REST endpoint. Now so I've created this issue and it's in to do, and we'll go to in progress. And what you notice now is this back appears because it's not the first state. Shall I click it to demonstrate that it works? So let's go on to done. And then the previous state was in progress. So we should be able to go back to in progress. And then we can go, if we go back again, where are we going to go? You know, I'd argue that this should be a stack and you should be able to go back all the way to the beginning. That's slightly more complicated to implement. So what I've done is it will just go back to whatever the previous status was, which means you're going to oscillate between done and in progress now. So where's the magic? What happens when we click the back? Then we're making a request to here. This is the REST endpoint. If we look at the code for that, I don't know if you're familiar with REST endpoints. Create. I always start from the snippet, and then you fill in what the implementation is. Let's have a look at that guy that I created. It's actually quite simple. The end of the URL is called transition. It's a get. We're going to get the issue key from the URL query parameters from the one called key. Grab the issue, and then look at the most recent status, the most recent previous status, and then transition the issue. And then finally, we return the current URL, which causes a refresh. Otherwise, everything will happen, but it won't be visible on the issue. So we return a redirect to the current issue, causing the browser to refresh, and job done. So if I was going to do this, if I had a bit more time, I would probably have a custom field that is not displayed associated with the issue, which would be a stack of the states. I mean, a stack in an IT sense. And then when you go back, one will be popped off the stack so that you could go all the way back to the beginning. But yeah, this is quite a complicated question, but that's my answer.
Nicely done, Jamie. Nicely done. Clark, you want to give Jamie any trouble for that demonstration, or should we move on to his next demonstration, which you can have some chances at? Okay, all right, we'll move on. Another question from Yossi. I was tasked with creating a button that when viewing a bug issue, users can automatically generate a task issue, copying some information from the bug, but not necessarily to the same fields. Woo, that's a fun one. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this question was actually part of the same, it related to the other one as well. We didn't fully understand, let's be honest. So we've kind of broken it down into two distinct parts. So one part was the back button, and the other part was kind of cloning an issue where you take some of the fields from one to another. So again, this is like workflows. So I'm good old classic default workflow I'm working with. And as usual, there's two different ways of doing this. Well, there's more than two. There's many different ways of doing this, depending on the kind of nuances of what you want to achieve. I'll show you one way. So I added like an any to any transition called create task. So it's a workflow action, but it will just take you back to the same state that you are on. It just makes it easy to run some code on this issue. And then what does this create task thing do? So you could use we have this clone an issue where you can choose the target issue type. You can customize the fields that you want to copy and so on. You can customize the link, endlessly customizable, but it's actually really easy to do it with code with HAPi nowadays. So I'm going to just type the code. We get the current issue in the script binding, so I'm going to redefine that. This is a source issue, and we're going to create a target issue and link them together. So we want issues.create. We do it in the same. We wanted a task in the same project. We can set the summary from the source. Set the description. And so on, so on and so forth. We do some custom fields as well. Set custom field value. I've got one called select list A, which is just a, you know, again, we're bad with names, but it's a single select list. And we'll grab that value from the wherever we're getting it from. Custom field value, select list A. Okay, and then let's link these two issues together. So I'm going to call this a task, and then we'll say link. I don't know what links. We'll just call it. We'll just use relates. Whatever. Then we do that. And so in doing this, although we've used the same fields, obviously, I think Yossi mentioned you didn't necessarily want to copy like the like fields. So here, obviously, you can mix it up and copy one field to another and so on. Hard code some values, do whatever. So let's give that a try. Update, publish. You get an issue in the JRA project, I think. Blah, 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 blah. Description, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's select, I'm going to put something in my select list, BBB. So we've got this create task now. And an issue was created. And it looks surprisingly like the other one because it clones the relevant fields as we told it to. So this kind of answers the question, but it doesn't give the users much control. They can't alter the values before they during the creation, which sometimes is what you want. But if it isn't what you want, if you want to just present the user with defaults that they can edit, which we use quite commonly internally, then there's another way of doing it, which again, everything is coming back to fragment today. Is this constrained create issue dialog? What I would suggest is you just look at the documentation for this. All of the documentation is available. If you click that and that, then you'll get to the docs, because this is a bit complicated, but it combines a fragment with a behavior. And then I've called it create, what do I call it as create task from this. And it's going to create pop up the create issue dialog, defaulting to these two, this issue context, and then a behavior will kick in that copies the values, which is quite easy to write. I'm not going to demonstrate it. I'm not going to show it, but I'll demonstrate it. So create task from this. I've made these read only, but as you see, it's copied. I didn't bother copying the description. I think I copied the select list. That's a way of, it achieves a similar sort of thing, but it gives the end user a chance to, you know, make some more edits before they submit. Yeah.
Very nice, Jamie. That was some nice coding, and doing it live with HAPi. I salute you. Very quickly, so we can't take all of the questions, but we have a little bit of time left before we wrap up. I think Pooja's question is one that we can knock out really quickly. Pooja asked, I'm using an older version of Jira Service Desk where behaviors are not supported in the customer portal. What version, when do behaviors start getting supported in the portal?
I mean, it's been years in terms of ScriptRunner. So, you know, we support the last 2 years worth of Jira versions, and we support whatever Jira versions Atlassian supports. What I'm trying to say is, if your Jira version is currently in support with Atlassian, it should work, because it's been working for more than 2 years.
So Pooja says on version 4.4.3 of JSD.
So that corresponds with Jira 8.4, I think, which is out of support. That is kind of out of support. You may have to upgrade. The other thing to note is that when you map your behavior, you have to, if you want it to appear in the portal, you need to use a service desk mapping. So there's radio button that says, do you want a project mapping or a service desk mapping? If you use a project mapping, it won't do anything in the portal by design, so you need a service desk mapping. That's probably not the problem. You know, I think possibly you're using a version of Jira that is out of support.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. I hope Pooja that is a quick solution.
But
Now,
if it doesn't, contact support, right? If I'm
thank
wrong,
you.
contact support.
Yeah, great shout. Maybe we can get a link to our support portal down in the chat. Rolf asked, and Jamie already confirmed this in the chat, but we can't dip all the way into it. Is it possible to set user groups as nested groups with ScriptRunner? Jamie Echlin says yes, but he doesn't have the code to hand. Joni asks, can you filter users with a pattern match on username and then use the filter results to mark them all inactive? Oh, it sounds like you have multiple accounts with of the same person who have been deactivated. That sounds fun. Is that something we could do? Now, we're not going to try and code it because we only have a couple of minutes, but what do you think, Jamie?
Or Clarky.
Or Clarky, yeah, either of you, or Briana. I mean, or Jess. Knows
I mean,
a lot.
I'm saying,
It's just
Clarky, I think we worked on something like this recently, didn't we?
I'm trying to remember. So, I mean, obviously we have we have a HAPi method to get users now, and you can just get the name. And I think you want to do some sort of like regex on the name is it you're trying to do?
Pattern match. So
Pattern match, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a string, so you can get the name as a string and then just do pattern matching. So yeah, it should be possible. I'm just trying to remember if we have. So yeah, the pattern matching part, it doesn't sound difficult. I think that should be fine. You just need to make sure you get the pattern right.
But then making them inactive users, is there a script that we can use to deactivate?
Yeah.
So we have an extension method that you could just user.deactivate, I believe.
Briana?
Yeah, I was trying to make sure. Yeah,
I was going to say it's not the exact same use case, but we do have a library script up there for checking the last login for users to maintain your user account so that you can deactivate users that haven't been logged in a while. I'm sure it could be easily adjusted to look for the pattern match as well. Yeah, so that's in our library if you want to check that out.
Yeah, nice. Great. Let's see. Can we restrict the values of cascading field values based on the other field, which is single select list field?
I mean, this, I think with behaviors, yeah. So you can do set field options, and then you can just specify. I don't know if that works with cascading select.
There was a point where that was not possible. I haven't checked recently. We'd have to have another go recently. It's something I've known in the past didn't work, but it was a bug. And so we might have a record.
Is it possible? No.
Well, it depends on where the cascade list is, because if you set, and now guys, you will tell me if I'm wrong. I know, Jamie, you will not hesitate to tell me when I'm wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, if you set the cascade, if you set the select list on screen 1 and you submit, then you could technically have a listener set up to change what the multi-select, the cascading list is, but without a step between them, you can't make them do it. Like you can't make you can't do the select list and then have the cascade change. There has to be a step between the two.
I think they're referring to Jira's cascade fields, which are like directly next to each other. So you have one and then the other one is.
Well, they say based on the other field, which is a single select. So if you set the single select and put it through, you could alter the options. So maybe again.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth raising another ticket so we have another go at it. The problem is not necessarily that, like you're saying, that it can't be done that way. I think the problem is our behaviors doesn't know how to set restrictions on the secondary field. Because cascade fields are a group field where the first and the second field are hooked up together. But yeah, I would have to have a go at that after
I think that's one of the things we should encourage. Like, if you have a question or like a follow-up question and you want us to spend some more time on the answer, please drop it on that form. We want to be able to give all of this the space that it deserves because they're great questions.
Yeah, we love the questions, but we want to make sure that we give them the right amount of attention. So please use that form. I think we go ahead and call it, because we are just out of time to get into these things. Please submit your questions and get involved. We want to see you again on these Is It Possible sessions. So keep in touch. There are product updates for our Jira and Confluence ScriptRunner offerings. We have options to share your ScriptRunner story, and also paid research opportunities. Who doesn't like getting paid? So help us shape the future of the apps. Help us shape the future of Is It Possible by getting involved. I believe Lisa and Jess have been dropping all sorts of links in the chat. Please, please, please get involved. And thank you all so much. These sessions, if you came to the cloud session yesterday, or any of the Is It Possible sessions, will be sent to everyone who registered. You'll get a recording. And there are lots of ways to get in touch with the ScriptRunner family, from social media to our support portal to the ScriptRunner homepage, which has a place that you can connect. Just, yeah, reach out. We'll be there. Just call out my name wherever I am. I'll come running, because you got a friend. Anyway, we're done with that. Yeah, sorry, Jamie. I quoted James Taylor. I told you I wouldn't do that again. Yeah, to all of you who attended, thank you so much for being here today. To Lisa, Jess, Matthew, Briana, and Jamie Echlin, thank you. Always a pleasure to be in your presence. And yeah, we'll see you next time on Is It Possible, everybody. Thank you.